What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Thank you for cruising over to the DFS 5 pack. We are here. We're coming up on Championship Sunday. And for my money, I do like Championship Sunday a little bit more than the Super Bowl because you got the two games. They both mean so much. Like, for me, like, they're both 75% as good as the Super Bowl, but 75 times two is 150. So it's just a little bit better.
Yeah, I have no arguments with that. Especially when your team is still in it. I thought you were going to say you like it better than last week. Well, easy to say when your team's still in it, but yeah, uh, not much beats Championship Sunday. I'll give you that, no doubt about it.
I mean, sure, like, mostly again, I know our demographic is mostly dudes, but I had a day with my buddies, like, way back in the day, like when I was in my 20s, that like they came over, had some drinks all day long. We watched. It was the year that Tom Brady and the Patriots played the Panthers in the Super Bowl. So I can't remember who were in the AFC and the NFC Championship games. It was just like the nostalgia of just what a great day that was with your buddies, just getting drunk, watching sports, just having a great old time.
I long for one of those days, man.
No kidding. All right, guys. So I think we'll got a lot to talk about this week. And obviously, we don't have as many guys in play because there's only two games. But I do think, as far as two games go, there's a lot of good plays on this one, and there's a variety of ways to go after it. We've been using this saying a lot over here lately, like tell yourself a story. And when it comes to a two-game slate like this, again, when you're putting together your GPP lineups, which I prefer to focus on myself even at this point in the season, tell yourself a story about how you think the game plays out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When you got these smaller slates, showdowns, 2 game slates, very similar. No doubt about that.
So as far as the promotions for this week go, I mean, the big one for us is just we want to thank you guys all for the support this season. We'll do a showdown video for the Super Bowl when that's apropos, but we're about 2 weeks out from that at least. So just thank you guys for the support, the thumbs up, the likes, the comments, the memberships, everything like that. Been another solid year of NFL DFS. We'll be back again next year. However, if you want to get a jump on next NFL season, say for like NFL customers who spend half this much money on their NFL membership every year, annual memberships are typically $200. We'll do $50 off this week for annual memberships. You buy one, you get the rest of the NBA season, you get the full baseball season, which isn't that far away, and then you get all of it in NFL next year for free. If you buy it through the website, I'll send you a rebate right away. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is always appreciated. Let's talk over the quarterback position. And I want to start with a couple of caveats before we start talking about my boy Aaron Rodgers. One, all four quarterbacks are in play this week. Play who you like. I said this the other day. If you asked me to go on like an ESPN like debate show and debate which quarterback was the best for DFS this week, I could give you really good bullet points on all four. So if there's somebody you like over Aaron Rodgers, I get it. We think Mahomes is going to play. We'll check that one out later. I get it. I get everybody from that game. And I would highly encourage people on this one, check the weather Sunday morning. Both Arrowhead and Lambeau are very capable of terrible weather, and it's possible it's a moot point. But if one of them swings in the other direction, like it's going to be cold here in Green Bay. If it's 15 degrees and windy, but Arrowhead's 35 and kind of sunny, like I'm going to pivot over to Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think that plays the part of telling yourself the story. Like your story will change if inclement weather happens in one of these games. Man, the last bullet point, I know that we talk about, these guys have all the motivation they need, and Aaron Rodgers has all the motivation he needs every Sunday. I mean, especially Championship Sunday. But if there was ever like a huge game for Aaron Rodgers, this is it. I mean, he's been to, again, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He's had huge games before. This is right up there as one of the biggest games of his career. No doubt about it.
From a legacy game perspective, and again, I don't care about this stuff a ton because there's so much motivation to win this week already. But I brought it up almost because I wanted to talk about it on here. Thought we could wing off in just some normal football discussion for a little bit. I really can't think of a bigger legacy game for a player almost ever. And what I mean by this is, one, you're matched up with Tom Brady, and the debate's been going on for 10 years now. If you watch the game, Aaron looks like the slightly more talented quarterback. The arm angles, the quick release, all the things that go with it. But Tom Brady's resume is just so vastly superior. It's very difficult to make too many logical arguments about Tom Brady not being the greatest quarterback of all time. If Aaron loses this game, like that, any little straw you were grasping onto, even me as a Green Bay fan, like it, and if Tom Brady outplays him specifically, like you got nothing. Like you really don't have any even little inkling of an argument anymore if Brady outplays him this weekend. So from a legacy perspective, this is as big of a game as Aaron's ever had.
I agree until they win this game and then he plays Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Seriously,
Sure.
I get it, like the Brady points, but you're right. And then it will only get bigger in the next game.
I mean, I agree. You go to the Super Bowl, you got to win it. But this is a monster legacy game for him. Now, the flip side of that is, like, if the Packers go out and, like, he just massively outplays Tom Brady in this game, I mean, that gives you some ammunition into that GOAT conversation. It's still really difficult to take that away from Brady. I don't care what your eyes tell you. His resume is so amazing that it would be difficult to take anything away from it. But this is just a monster legacy game. From a DFS perspective, though, I think one of the things I like about Aaron is he's less money than the other guys. He has all the same upside as Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, but for fewer dollars. Also, you can't run on Tampa. That's not changing. I know New Orleans got 100 yards rushing last week, but that was almost because Drew Brees was so bad. They had no choice but to try to pound the run. And Kamara is obviously really, really good. For me, like, you're just not going to have a lot of success running on Tampa. So if they want to win this game, it rests on the right arm of Aaron Rodgers.
What did it take New Orleans 100 carries to get 100 yards? I mean,
yeah, right. Like something like that.
So I'm with you, man. He checks off a lot of bullet points here. And I think the biggest point to mention is what you first said. You can make reasonable cases for all QBs on this slate. If you don't like Rodgers, you like one of the other guys, more to your thing. A lot sets up for Rodgers to be really good here, though. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and again, I double check the weather. I think that plays a factor this week. Absolutely. I know it's like 7 degrees here in Green Bay today, so it is cold, and that can make a really, really big difference. So that's worth checking back on. And I don't want to like go all lukewarm in our feelings on Rodgers, but you're absolutely right. If you like Josh Allen this week, you have good reasons for it. If you like Patrick Mahomes, assuming he plays, it's Patrick Mahomes. Who am I to sit here and argue against Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, the guy is not crappy at the game of football.
Mm-mm.
All right, so in the same game, we want to take kind of a GPP pivot right here. So based on the recency bias of the last 2 weeks, based on Ronald Jones just giving it in the pooper to everybody in that opening game against the Washington Redskins, or the Washington football team, as he was massively owned and getting hurt in the pregame, not getting a good announcement on that. Leonard Fournette sets up currently to be at least double the ownership of Ronald Jones.
Yeah, you have to assume so, considering how they played recently. I'm with you. You mentioned this on our members only video. Jones also looked good in that game. And we know ultimately he's Bruce Arians' guy. So I was encouraged how well he looked when he got on the field. I was also very encouraged that he got hurt for a second and then came right back in. As a Fournette owner that day, I didn't love it. But as a guy looking to use Jones this week, I really liked it. He's good. I think his ownership is low. When you have these 2-game slates and ownership flocks to one guy like Fournette, you know, the likelihood of Fournette over succeeding Jones is, I don't know. What would you put the odds of that at?
I mean, closer to 50-50 than most people would think. Ronald Jones is the more talented running back. And I think this is a classic case of tell yourself a story. If you think Tampa Bay is even or ahead in this game, there's no reason that if Ronald Jones runs the ball effectively early on, he couldn't out-touch Leonard Fournette. Green Bay's run defense has improved over the last 2 months. There's no doubt about that. I talked about this on members only. They took the play calling duties away from Christian Kirksey, a former Cleveland Browns player, so you know him pretty well. And they've allowed him to play free and loose at the linebacker position a little bit, which has really just improved his play. It's improved the run defense. So Tampa Bay gets to attack Green Bay with the run, and they're better against it, but they're still better against the pass than they are against the run. So I could easily see Tampa Bay trying to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, establishing the run, having some version of success moving the ball right here, run it twice with Jones, play action to Mike Evans for 6 yards, get a first down, and keep moving on, turning the chains and stuff like that. So I think Jones makes for a very intriguing GPP play this week.
Agreed.
So is Fournette the better play on paper? Probably. But again, I could picture Fournette at 3 times the ownership of Jones.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving along down the line. Let's talk about the wide receivers. Kind of like quarterback, high-priced wide receivers are really great this week. There's a couple of them you should like. We're going to talk about Tyreek Hill. And obviously, this play is very dependent on Patrick Mahomes. Like Tyreek Hill has a good likelihood to be a staple of my lineups if Patrick Mahomes plays. I will say the flip side of that, if for some reason Mahomes can't go, Tyreek Hill takes a major hit to his ownership. And not that I'm a big Chad Henne guy, but I'm a big Andy Reid guy. And I think Andy Reid can coach up his quarterback to at least make Tyreek Hill viable at very, very low ownership for his standards.
I agree. We talked about this on our members only video. With Mahomes, it's Tyreek Hill with Mahomes. We don't need to tell you guys too much about that. I mean, listen, it's the best quarterback in football, one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver. Not many guys can cover Tyreek Hill, and he's just a great play with Mahomes. If Mahomes somehow happens to be out, like you mentioned, I trust Andy Reid. You even saw last week in the couple plays that Henne was in, they got Tyreek Hill the ball. They will get him the ball, whether it's running it, short passes, whatever it might be. He isn't as good of a play on paper if Mahomes is out, but the ownership will definitely show that. And I like him either way. Obviously, he's just you can't go wrong with him if Mahomes is in, and the GPP upside if Mahomes is out is real.
I think another point, and I forgot to mention this under Aaron, if you're really stuck in a decision between the home quarterbacks and the road quarterbacks, you got to remember, guys, fans are back. Now, they're not going to sell out. They're not going to have full stadiums. But I think last week, Green Lambeau, they had, 11,000 fans or something like that. It was loud. And the same goes for Arrowhead. Now that they're letting these people back in here, like Buffalo, it was the same thing against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Like, you may not get the full stadium, but it was loud. And this is now Championship Sunday. You can expect noise from the fans. That just makes life a lot harder on the visiting quarterback. So if you're like in a toss-up between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and you like them both, that could be a reason to opt for the home quarterback, that he gets to audible on third downs a little bit easier than the road quarterback.
Agreed.
So, all right, let's keep moving on down the line. Let's talk about another wide receiver, same game from the flip side of it. Look, guys, Stephon Diggs is a great play. Everybody knows it. He's been fantastic all year long. You can't afford every good player on the slate. And I think John Brown, with Stephon Diggs or without him, is a kind of an intriguing pivot. Maybe not even pivot's the right word for it, but just a play for you. Because John Brown is also a very capable wide receiver. He's been battling injuries all year long. This is now his third game back, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. He was terrible in the opener. Just no flow with Josh Allen. When he got it back last week, he had 11 targets and 8 catches. Even though he didn't get it last week, he's very capable of the deep ball. And in my estimation, even though you can run in Kansas City, Buffalo hasn't established the run all year long. And without Zach Moss, this is not very likely to happen. They're going to have to throw. I could easily see John Brown with double-digit targets again.
Agreed. I mean, you saw last week they really wanted to get him involved after he didn't do much the week before. He's a big part of their offense. In a game, you expect them to be throwing a ton. He's very, very affordable at 4,300. He was low owned last week after being chalked the week before. I expect him to be somewhere in the middle there. And again, you mentioned it. There's a lot of, well, there's not a lot. There's a few high-priced receivers that are all really, really in play. When you drop down, I think Brown looks like maybe the best of that group.
Yeah, or Cole Beasley, who was shut out last week, is also an intriguing pivot, who was popular week 1 and then was terrible last week. Could easily go back there. So Buffalo's going to sling it. And I expect them to have more offensive success this week. The wins were kind of bad. Like, did you hear anything about how bad the wind was going to be during that game prior? Like, it wasn't even a thing that I'd heard about.
Agreed.
I didn't look very carefully, so I thought maybe I missed it and I was the moron. But like, I didn't hear from anybody else who studies up on DFS that the crosswind in Buffalo week had a major effect on the offense.
Mm-hmm, no doubt about that.
All right, next up, Cameron Braid. So kind of nice. Didn't have to change a couple of the bullet points right here. I think this is a GPP pivot off of a chalky Kelsey. Again, though, Kelsey's chalk if Mahomes plays. He gets a bump down to his ownership if it's Chad Henne. But based on what I heard yesterday, and I think you said the same thing, it definitely sounds like Mahomes is more than likely to be in this game.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, or according to Colin Cowherd, they should just wait until he's healthy if they want to play the game, which is crazy. But I think he's going to be healthy on Sunday. I'm with you.
Let's side note that because I heard the same thing, and I've mentioned a couple times recently. I think Colin Cowherd's an idiot for most of my life, but I've actually heard him make a lot of really good points in recent memory. That one I thought was an intriguing conversation. We want to see the best guys in action. And while I can't rationally say, because if you're a Buffalo fan and all of a sudden they wait out this game so the other team can get their quarterback, I would be pissed. But we do want to see Mahomes versus Allen, right? We don't want to see Mahomes versus Chad Henne.
It's not about what we want to see, though. I mean, this isn't about what we want to see. This is about guys, guys are hurt all over. I mean, guys on the Browns were hurt. I don't even think there's any credence to that at all. I think that's blasphemous, to be quite honest. Injuries are part of the game. I mean, what kind of precedent does that send if you're going to talk about moving a game back because one player's out?
Well, I think precedence is the best word right there, because then where do you draw the line? It's one thing when you're missing the best player in football and Patrick Mahomes and he's not playing. But then, like, where do you draw the line? All of a sudden, is Justin Herbert next year in the playoffs? Oh, no, we can't play a game because Justin Herbert's not around. So I think precedence is the real issue right there.
I mean, you talk about it like, I don't remember exactly last year, but a guy like George Kittle, he was hurt. I bet San Fran thinks he's the best player in football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyways, back to Cameron Brate, and he's 3K. And I think that's a big thing right here, because with, expensive quarterbacks, with 3 really good options at expensive wide receiver, with an expensive tight end, you're going to need some cap and salary relief somewhere. Brate has been the better tight end for Tampa throughout the playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean that sticks this week against Green Bay, but he's only 3K. I think he has 130 yards through 2 games. He's doubled up the targets of Rob Gronkowski so far. Gronk continues to look slower and older. He's still a red zone threat and everything like that, but he's not the Gronk of yesteryear. And Brady always likes Cameron Brate. And the reason Brate hasn't been a bigger factor was there was O.J. Howard there in the beginning of the year. But then, Brady and Gronk just have a lot of history, so there's a lot of connection right there. Well, he's really vibing with Cameron Brate right now. And there's not a lot of other places you can go for 3K on this slate.
No, there's not. I mean, he's $1,000 cheaper than even the backup running backs. He's looked good. He won't get love. I like everything about this play, man.
And also it goes back again, tell yourself a story. If you think Green Bay gets up early, which is kind of what they do, and Tampa Bay maybe can't lean on the running game the way that they want to, then I think you like Cameron Brate even more. Also, Antonio Brown's questionable, and it's possible he gives it a go. It's possible he's out, but even if he gives it a go, it's unlikely he's 100%. And even though we saw Mike Evans play, well in the opener against Washington, I still don't think he's 100%. So you got a banged up receiving crew, and Brate's a very capable player at 3K.
Agreed. Very, very capable. I remember watching Buccaneers-Raiders game from earlier this year, and Darren Waller, they were had him mic'd up. The whole time he was talking about how underrated Brate is. It really stuck to me. I know that doesn't mean anything, but when you Waller is, right up there as after, Kelsey and Kittle is one of the best tight ends in football, maybe the best receiving tight end, just receiving. And he was singing high praises for Brate.
Well, I think there's a difference, too, between a guy like Cameron Brate and a guy like Mercedes Lewis, who's the backup tight end for the Green Bay Packers. Mercedes Lewis is a very valuable player because of the intangibles and the fact that he's one of the best run-blocking tight ends in NFL recent history. But he's not much of a receiving threat. Cameron Brate can be. This guy can take the top off a little bit as far as tight end standards go. He's a good catcher of the football. Obviously, he's getting the ball from an excellent quarterback in Tom Brady and everything like that, who loves to utilize the middle of the field in his tight ends. This is not a backup tight end who's in there for run blocking. No, he's a backup tight end who comes to behind. He can play.
Gronk's the one who's been run blocking.
Yeah, man, Brate can play. He is no scrub.
No, he's not at all.
And some of these backup tight ends in the league, they're in there as run blockers, and they are scrubby in the passing game. It's not Cameron Brate.
No, it's not.
All right, Mr. Sports Bettor, who wins this weekend and who matches up in the Super Bowl? Sounds like you're leaning for a State Farm Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're the 2 favorites, and I like my underdogs. I think that Kansas City and Green Bay win, although I give both underdogs reasonable shots to win. I don't think KC is unbeatable at all. I mean, even the Browns last week had chances to win that game. And you got Tom Brady on the other side. I didn't think they were going to beat New Orleans. I like them to cover the spread. I didn't think they'd win that game. They ended up winning that game pretty easily. Not going to count Tom Brady out, but I like the way Green Bay's playing right now.
I like to hear that. I tend to lean on both overdogs, although it's very difficult for me to make a rational decision when it's your team involved in the NFC Championship game. I would expect, Green Bay's the favorite. They're at home. I think the home field, getting the fans back, Aaron, everybody heard the post-game, interview. He talked about just what a great feeling it was for these players to, actually have the fans in the stands again and how inspirational it felt for them to hear the cheering and everything like that. I think that can really, really help the home teams this week.
I do think whichever team wins in the NFC will win the Super Bowl. And if it's Buffalo who beats Kansas City, I think the Super Bowl might be a blowout.
Oh, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I love the idea of Green Bay winning in a blowout. I mean, not being stressed in the Super Bowl the way that I have all 3 times Green Bay's played in the Super Bowl. That would be a great feeling. So interested to see what everybody's thoughts are. If you got any strong feelings, feel free to throw it in the comment section. I do think we're going to get 2 good games personally.
Same, me too.
Okay, so we'll see how it plays out. That's the way I view it. But I would be very, very happy for Green Bay to roll right here and me not having to stress and wear a hole in the carpet in front of my big screen on Sunday, pacing back and forth.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for a great season. We will see you for a showdown talk when the Super Bowl's around. But we are getting light on football information at this point.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.